Welcome to The Deep Dive. This is a Prime AI podcast brought to you by the folks at Silicon and Silk.
Great to be here. Today, we're focusing on a friction point that, nearly every single person who shops for clothes online knows intimately. It's the sheer, utter chaos of multi-brand fashion sizing. If you're managing, say, hundreds or thousands of different brands and products, you know this truth. There is no such thing as universal sizing. It just doesn't exist. You've got brand A's EU38, and it fits exactly like brand B's EU40. Or, you have a size M from a Korean designer that's really closer to an XS in a big US label, and it gets even crazier than that. The exact same item, same SKU, can fit differently just because of the color, or because it came from a different production batch 6 months later. So the natural response from retailers, especially when you're dealing with all this complexity, is to clean it up. The typical workflow is suppliers send their size data in all these inconsistent formats, and then your internal teams manually clean or normalize it inside the ERP system. They adjust the charts, they standardize the labels, and then they try to plug in their predictive tech. And look, this process feels like good governance. It feels organized, responsible even. But the counterintuitive finding here is that this common cleanup ritual, it's actually doing massive measurable harm.
That is the core idea we really need to explore, and it's a huge structural shift for multi-brand retail. The claim is, well, it's simple. Retailers have to stop editing, overriding, or normalizing sizing in their core systems. Instead, you have to preserve the raw, messy supplier details exactly as they come in and let sophisticated technology handle the interpretation. This isn't about accepting chaos. It's about preserving the truth. And if you make that one structural change, you immediately unlock better personalization and, crucially, a measurable drop in refunds. We're seeing clients get up to 35% fewer returns on orders where the recommendation is followed.
Okay, let's unpack this a little, because our entire business instinct, especially in an ERP system, is to standardize things. So why is this natural desire to force thousands of SKUs into one simple chart, actually? Bad for business. It feels like it would help logistics.
It simplifies inventory management, yes, but it absolutely destroys the critical signal that predictive fit technology needs. And that, ultimately hurts customer satisfaction. It's detrimental because of the scale. When you multiply that manual, aggressive normalization across hundreds of brands, thousands of products, and new inventory every season, you are essentially just erasing incredibly valuable data points. We see this aggressive cleaning everywhere. Teams forcing generic regional conversions, like changing a UK10 to a generic US6, or they convert everything into a simple 3-bucket SML scale. They overwrite the supplier size code with their own internal ones. Sometimes they even merge around sizes, getting rid of half sizes in the filters just to make the website look tidier.
So on the front end, the filters look clean, they look easy for the shopper, but underneath, what's happening to the source data? You're saying the system that's supposed to help is now actively misleading us.
Precisely. The ERP system, which is meant to manage and integrate data, becomes a source of artificial consistency. It pretends that all these very different supplier sizes are identical. And when you remove that original nuance, when you throw away that specific brand-level label, you throw away the truth. That's the signal loss. The system is designed for operational tidiness, but operational tidiness is often the enemy of customer experience.
This is where it gets really interesting. This manual process doesn't just make the predictive tools less effective. It actually imposes these concrete, hidden costs that eat away at profit. There are 3 major ones we've identified. Let's start with the most obvious: losing all that granular information.
This is critical. So let's go back to that common scenario. A team is looking at brand A's specific size 2, brand B's generic small, and brand C's EU36. To make the dataset clean, they just map all 3 to an internal S. The original labels are, they're archived, ignored, or just deleted.
And from a buying perspective, that makes reporting easier, right?
We bought 3,000 units of internal size S. But for prediction, it's a catastrophe. The AI now sees 3 identical S values with 0 context about where they came from. You've just stripped away the very nuance that, in the real world, makes those 3 sizes fit completely differently. You've removed the granularity that technology could have used to spot subtle fit patterns, or, and this is key, identify which exact size label has the highest keep rate.
Let's pause there and define that. For anyone listening who might not be deep in retail metrics, what exactly is the keep rate?
The keep rate is simply the percentage of items a customer buys and actually keeps. They don't return it. It is the ultimate metric for a successful fit. The moment you destroy the original size label, you lose the ability to analyze the keep rate by that true original label. And that loss leads right to the second cost, creating artificial consistency in your analytics.
Right. So the system is confidently saying, all these products are now M inventory is sorted. But the returns data is telling a completely different story.
It always does. You look at your big business intelligence dashboard, and it might tell you internal size M has a 15% return rate across the category, which seems acceptable. You think M is fine. But because you preserve the raw data and let the AI analyze it, the technology proves that specifically the brand Z, size S, which you normalize to M, actually has a shocking 40% return rate because it runs 2 sizes too small.
So you've hidden the problem child SKU from your own team. Your big picture dashboard is misleading your own strategy.
Exactly. Your analytics are based on a lie you created yourself. So you waste time trying to fix a category-wide M problem when the issue is really just with 3 specific suppliers whose S you incorrectly tagged as an M. That leads to huge waste in future buying and marketing.
And that brings us to the third cost. You are actively frustrating the predictive tech you invested in. Now, you've said modern AI doesn't need perfect size charts, but I have to ask the big retail objection here. If I keep all those messy, non-standardized sizes in my core system, won't that just completely break my basic inventory planning and reporting?
That's a very valid concern, and it's why retailers do the cleanup in the first place. The answer is yes. It will break legacy systems built on that assumption of standardization. And that's why the solution requires a structural separation. But before we get to that, let's just nail down what the predictive engine actually needs. It needs truthful raw data and real-world outcomes. It needs to know, what was the original label? What did people actually buy? Who kept it? Who returned it? And most importantly, why? If you overwrite the size data too early, the technology can't see the crucial anomalies. You're blurring the picture before you even give the tech a chance to see what's really going on.
So we can't accept chaos, but forcing this false consistency is creating these huge hidden problems. It sounds like the path forward is a really fundamental shift in data management, right? Where the data first enters the organization.
Absolutely. The core solution is to separate what you store from what you display. This separation lets you manage inventory cleanly while preserving the truth for the AI. The role of the ERP changes. Instead of being the one that sets the truth, it becomes the collector of facts. You keep the raw supplier fields completely intact in the ERP database. That means preserving the supplier size label, the supplier region, EU, UK, US, and any extra notes like short, tall, or petite. This is the source data the AI eats.
And that's where systems like a APM, a product information management system, come in, right? If the ERP holds the messy truth, where do you give the customer that clean, standard experience they need?
Exactly. You introduce a separate data layer, often managed by the PIM or a front-end service, just for the customer experience. We call it the display size layer. This is where you create your clean, standardized filters like SML. But crucially, the raw size label is never deleted or overridden in the database. It remains the system of record. And on top of that, you have to enrich the product attributes at this layer. You add metadata like fit, type slim, regular, oversized, the fabric, the intended gender. All these attributes provide more signal for the AI.
So the technology is now acting as the interpreter. It's reading the specific brand A, size 2, it's seeing the customer behavior, looking at the display size S, and it's learning the complex relationship between all 3.
Correct. The technology learns the practical reality. For people who typically buy this type of product in this brand in this category, what specific raw size label actually results in a keep? We stopped trying to force 2,000 different brands onto a single universal chart that doesn't exist. We embrace the charts are often incomplete, and we trust the tech to learn from customer actions instead.
That is a massive shift in philosophy. So let's talk results. How does this technology operate when we do preserve that nuance, especially with those hypergranular differences, like color?
It allows this system to focus entirely on behavior learning, not on human assumptions. When a high-fidelity system ingests the data, it takes it as it is. Brand, the raw size label, category, and color. It doesn't demand perfect charts. It analyzes sales and returns by the specific product ID and, critically, the unique color ID.
We mentioned earlier that color ID is crucial, but why? I mean, how can a navy shirt fit differently than a black shirt the exact same style and size?
This is a perfect example of why standardization is so dangerous. We worked with a retailer selling a popular cotton jersey dress. They had great return rates for the black and charcoal versions, but the navy version, listed as the exact same size on the chart, had a 25% higher return rate for being too small.
Wow.
Because the darker dye for the navy garment needed a slightly higher heat setting during the finishing process in that specific batch run. That tiny adjustment caused an extra half inch of shrinkage compared to the black version.
Wow. So, If the retailer had just normalized both the navy M and the black M into a generic M code in their ERP, the AI would have seen zero difference, and shoppers would just keep getting bad recommendations.
Precisely. But because the raw data was preserved and the returns were tracked by the color ID, the engine spotted the deviation. It learned immediately. Brand X size M navy must be treated as its own thing. It should only be recommended to customers who typically wear a size smaller than M in that brand. It learns what does fit, not just what a chart claims should fit.
And that level of granularity is what allows for really powerful personalization for the shopper.
Absolutely. For your returning shoppers, the system can offer what's called zero input sizing. That's a recommendation given with no quiz at all, based purely on their past purchase history and their actual keep and return behavior across all the brands you sell. It literally anticipates their needs. Because you didn't flatten everything down to a generic S, M, L, the engine can see the truth. Which brands consistently run small, which specific sizes in a chart are maybe defective, and how fit differs by subtle details like fabric or even a specific production batch.
And when you respect that nuance, the financial results follow. That claim of influencing 50 to 80% of transactions and delivering that measurable 35% average reduction in returns for orders that take the recommendation, that's not just an efficiency gain. That's a fundamental shift in profitability. This shift is obviously rooted in performance, but there's also a profound change in the shopper's experience. When a size recommendation just appears automatically, tailored for them based on their true history, it signals trust. It signals care. The quiet message to the customer is, we know you. And that effortless, personalized experience is exactly what high-end lifestyle and luxury retailers are trying to achieve today. It leads to much higher loyalty and repeat purchases.
For anyone thinking about this kind of structural change, we have 4 practical takeaways. First, you need to do a full audit of where size rewriting is currently happening in your systems, whether it's the ERP or the PM. You have to find exactly where you're throwing away nuance just to make it look nicer.
Second, introduce those separate fields in your systems. Establish the supplier size as the raw, unedited data, and then use a separate field for display size strictly for the front-end user experience. Never let the display size overwrite the truth.
Third, and this is crucial for the AI, capture better outcomes data. Make sure your return reasons are structured and highly detailed, and that you link product level and ideally color level data to every single transaction outcome.
And finally, you have to change the questions you ask your technology partners. Stop asking, do you have size charts for these brands? The right question is, can your AI work reliably when size charts are inconsistent, incomplete, or even missing, and still learn effectively from our real-world customer data? That is the ultimate differentiator. The solution isn't about chasing some impossible standard. It's a fundamental change in how you respect the data backbone of your business.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises a really important truth. We spend so much time and effort chasing the perfect standardized size chart that just doesn't exist in reality. The ultimate truth of fit. It isn't found in a theoretical chart. It is found in the specific historical outcomes of millions of customer interactions, what they bought, what they kept, and why they returned it. Understanding and leveraging that historical mess is, paradoxically, the highest form of structure you can possibly achieve.